What's up, everybody? This is Greg Birch with Be the Difference podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. I have Miss Dayana Aleksandrova. Dayana Aleksandrova, correct?
Yes, that's right. Thanks.
Okay. I got it. Okay. So this podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun. Dayana, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here with you and your audience.
Oh, this is going to be a great one. I was actually reading the key topics that you like to discuss, and I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. So you guys strap in for a great episode. I'm really excited to talk about some of these different things. Before we get started, what I want to do is just kind of read a little bit from Dayana's bio and to introduce her so that we can get it started, and then I'll let you jump in, Dayana, and kind of tell your story. Okay.
Great.
All right. So Dayana is a certified mindset coach, business mentor, and TEDx speaker. She is a founder and CEO of the Activated Community, which is a group of nicheless ninjas making an impact in the world through marketing, coaching, and speaking. She's on a mission to empower multi-passionate and online entrepreneurs to step into genuine confidence, quit people-pleasing, and live a wealthy life on their own terms. Dayana brings to the table a decade of experience in marketing, having worked on campaigns of over $8 million. When she's not giving one of her signature empowerment rants, she's traveling the world with her partner, Jay. That's a fantastic bio. I love that, Dayana.
Thank you.
So you're a TEDx speaker.
That's right. So that opportunity kind of came about out of nowhere a couple of years ago, but I have always been a traveler, and I'm originally from Bulgaria, by the way, not American. Do not be fooled by the accent. When I had a travel blog back years ago, I got found by someone online, and she said to me, "Oh my God, you're living my dream life. Can you please come and do a TEDx talk on it at my school and tell us how you did it?" And I was like, hell yeah. So that was my experience with TEDx, and it was amazing just seeing all the faces light up in the audience and young people get inspired. And ever since, the girl who invited me has gone on to build her wealthy life and study in the U.S. and pretty much conquer the world. So that's how that turned out.
That's amazing. I love that. The one of the things that I wanted to start off with was was the last key topics. I think it's a good starting place to kind of tell your story, but for you to share your story, how to embody resilience and how you went from being homeless to a startup job, and then you dropped everything to live in a treehouse and ultimately build your 6-figure business in marketing online.
Yeah, so it comes down to embodying resilience. And what I mean by that, so there's a lot of talk about the word embody in the coaching industry. It means nothing more than to truly walk the talk. So when I say that I'm resilient, it doesn't just mean like, oh, I would like to be, but it's actually like I'm here to face whatever comes my way and I practice what I preach.
Mhm.
So my story has been one of twists and turns. In 2015, I graduated college. I went to Trinity College in Connecticut on a big scholarship. And when I found myself out of school, I couldn't get a job because I didn't hold an American passport. So I ended up getting work as a door-to-door salesperson, and that didn't last very long simply because the 18-hour workdays were not sustainable for my mental health.
Mhm.
And so when I left that job, I actually ended up sort of homeless for a period of time. And at the time, I crashed on a friend's couch. So that was the first point when I realized, oh my God, the world outside of what we might imagine we want it to be is actually quite rough. However, I am also stronger than I've ever realized before. So what I did after that is I started applying for jobs very vigorously. I ended up moving to Spain, and as my fortune would have it, I landed a job at a tech startup. Again, that was kind of short-lived. I lasted about 7 months before I realized, oh my God, I'm actually such a bad employee. I kept coming into work a couple minutes late, leaving early, kind of doing my own thing on the clock. And I realized I don't think I'm meant to do this traditional 9 to 5 thing. So I took a leap of faith. At the time, I didn't have many savings to my name. I think I had about $1,900 in my bank account. I rented out my room. I bought a one-way ticket to the Dominican Republic, and I moved into a tree house. Now, people are like, why did you pick a tree house and the Dominican Republic? I literally sat down on Google and I Googled, where can I live for free? So there was this one hotel that was taking bloggers to live there residentially in exchange for writing articles for the resort. So that's how I ended up in a tree house, and I decided to stay there until I figured this whole online thing out, quote unquote, because I just knew that I was craving a different reality. So, what I learned throughout that experience, going from a very prestigious college to homeless to a prestigious startup to then having no work, living in a tree house, which by the way didn't have walls, I learned that all of us have so much more when it comes to what we can handle.
Mhm.
Now, while we don't want our lives to be a series of misfortunate events, the truth is that we are all a lot stronger than we seem to be. If you had asked me maybe 10 years ago, Dee, could you ever deal with being near homeless? I would have said, hell no, there's no way. I'm an only child. My parents always, spoiled me with the little that they had. There's no way I could do this. But when the reality hit me, I became so resourceful. I leveraged my entire network. Now, I wasn't embarrassed to say on Facebook, hey guys, I'm losing my apartment because I can't pay my rent next Monday. Can someone take me in on their couch? And then once again, I wasn't too proud to say, hey, Treehouse Resort, will you take me in to live there for free because I'm looking to make a change in my life? So when it comes to resilience, I want you to know that there is so much more in you than you feel like you have. And
Mhm.
also, there is no place for ego there because it's highly experiential.
I love every single bit of that. I want to dig in to you actually living in the treehouse. Let's back up to that time frame. And how long did it take you? Walk us through the process of getting there, getting started, and how long it took you to kind of start to figure this out before you started to get traction and gain momentum in your online business.
Sure. So I moved in and I thought, okay, this will probably take a little while. But in reality, it took me 21 days for me to find my first client. Now, when you think about, a client, it wasn't anything glamorous. At the time, I landed a retainer writing articles for an HR blog for a business owner based in Los Angeles. So that was a small retainer. It was about $1,200 a month. However, with that money, I could live in the DR where everything was so much cheaper. And also, I could return to Spain where I had my rented room in an apartment with my rent being 350 euros.
Mm.
So I realized that with consistency, things happen a lot faster than you think. Now, don't imagine me staying up late and doing like 18-hour days applying for work. It wasn't like that. However, when I have a goal, I tap into my obsession. And I'm sure many of you guys have this obsessive kind of side to your personality as well. And while people think, oh my God, this is so toxic, the reality is that when you leverage your obsession and you use it in a productive way, it could help you super speed whatever you're doing. So the way that it went for me is I would wake up around 5 a.m. every day. I would make a coffee. Sometimes I'll have like three in the morning, and then I would just get to applying. So at the time, I made a hit list for all the websites where I wanted to find work. So this was back in about 2017, and I was looking for writing work. So I was hitting up platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, ProBlogger. If I was to start doing this today, depends on what I'm doing, whether I'm a designer, I want to do sales. There's so many platforms out there like Flex Jobs or Indeed or LinkedIn or even your own network. So with spending the hours from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. every morning, I was able to secure that client in 21 days. And then after that, it was kind of like, okay, I have choices now. For the first time in a very long time, I had options.
So I assume during this time you started building your online brand.
Yeah, that's right.
And so talk a little bit about building your brand and what that was like and how somebody can to start taking steps on a daily basis in order to build their brand and also the importance of that.
Yeah, definitely. So I always say that when you show up online, you're no longer just you, you're actually a brand. So, for example, in my daily life, I'm Dayana or D or whatever. But on Instagram, I'm Coach D, known for my signature tough love and my kind of unique experience in coaching. So, to show up online and build a brand, First of all, you do not have to get it perfect. You do not even have to get it right. You just have to show who you really are. So what I always advise, and this goes to the people I coach, to multi-million dollar brands that I've worked with, is come up with your 3 key values. So for example, those could be to make an impact, to have clarity in your business, or a key value could also be fun. And then all of the messaging, meaning your reels, your captions, your stories, come from those 3 values. So for example, if you're someone who really loves motorbikes, first of all, we've got that in common. Secondly, this is something that you could proudly display on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, or LinkedIn, wherever you're building your brand. So definitely infuse your personality in your brand. Secondly, what are you on a mission to achieve? So my one, for example, is to help online entrepreneurs genuinely feel confident when they start something new and stop taking BS from people, clients who are trying not to pay them badly. So what is your mission? Do you stand against, let's say, crappy marketing techniques? Or are you here to innovate the fitness industry, the food industry, how people live their lives, their routines? What are you here to do?
Mhm.
When it comes to being consistent, I would say, again, remember that messy action is better than no action at all.
I
Because
love that.
trust me, yes,
I
I've
love it.
seen so many people who are sitting down day after day saying, oh, I'm working on my brand. Great, you're strategizing, cool. You've got your font picked out, you've got your colors, but they're still holding back because they're not comfortable being seen. So once you realize that it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be good enough. Just do it. Just close your eyes and press send and press post and go for it. And consistently, even if you shared 1 post per day, 3 posts per week, even if you're busy, maybe 1 story per day. It doesn't even have to be your content. You could share a quote that resonates with you. You're still having presence, and that consistency builds trust in your audience.
Mhm. So sounds like, authenticity is
Yeah,
be your true self. And that's so true. I've heard that from a lot of different brand building coaches, is be authentically you. Um, but having your core values, having your values of what you stand for, all your content needs to kind of center around that. Have your mission and your vision. What are you looking to achieve, and take action. And
exactly.
I always tell agents, I'm like, get out there and make a mess, right? Because you're going to learn so much just from taking the action, that you're going to be like, oh, well, this worked, this didn't work, I'm not going to do that again, but this worked, and now I can amplify those. But if you sit there and think about it, you will what if yourself to death in your mind just for forever, until the point that, like, the fear grows within your mind so much that you're just like, this isn't for me,
Exactly.
and then you just don't even do it.
Totally. You nailed it. You nailed it.
So I love that. So you talked a little bit about coaching already.
Mhm.
How did you get into coaching?
Oh my God.
How did that happen?
So that was such a natural kind of segue. So back in 2020, I decided to brand myself as a copywriter. So in the treehouse, I was writing blog, I was producing a lot of content. And in 2020, when the pandemic hit and I had nothing to do, I was like, okay, I'll become a copywriter. So I did that successfully for 2 years. In about 13 months, I ended up building a 6-figure business just based on retainers. And then when I started building a community on Instagram, people kind of started joking like, oh, she'll give you great advice. Haha, this is Coach D. Coach D, can you give me advice? Hey, Coach D. So I stopped and I thought, wait a minute, that's got a kind of a nice ring to it. Coach D, what about that? So the funny thing is that I never even set out to create a coaching brand for myself. My audience totally did it.
Yeah.
And then I had started giving people advice in voice notes with my posts. In about April of last year, I decided, okay, I want to go for it. Like you said, take messy action, go out there and make a mess.
Yeah.
I decided to go and just give it a shot. But before then, I decided to get my certification because I thought, okay, when you're coaching, you have to be so careful because anything that you kind of put into your client's mind, any advice that you give, any reflection has to come from a professional place
Mhm.
because you want them to go out there and make good decisions. So I got my certification. It was a 6-month process. And in about August of last year, actually probably in the fall it was, I announced on Instagram that I'm now certified and I'm taking on clients. And that kind of developed very quickly. I started with one-to-ones, and eventually I ended up launching an 8-week program for online entrepreneurs called Online Entrepreneur Accelerator. And then I launched the Activated Community, which is a small group of nicheless ninjas, like you said, Greg, that is trying to crystallize their vision and take supported action. So what I do now is I sort of bridge two things together.
Mhm.
I'm very much into empowerment, confidence, alignment, so all the right brain things. But in my coaching, I also back that up with step-by-step marketing strategies, sales strategies, how to build a business, how to craft an offer. And I would say that coaching for most people is always an evolving trend depending on what is needed of you. And I'm really happy to have struck a balance for the time being.
So I want to dig in on marketing because
Sure.
I mean, so the audience, most of the audience is predominantly going to be insurance agents, right?
Mhm.
And with that being said, we have a couple different ways that we can get clients. One is just to buy leads. Like we rely on third party vendors
Mhm.
that will do marketing for us. However, we don't even know how it's done, but we have them, whether, or it could be a piece of mail, but usually it's digital online means. And we allow them to generate leads for us. We buy them, we call, and we make sales, right? But so in 2020, at the end of 2020, I bought a program, paid for a program to do coaching on marketing. So I could do video sales letter funnels and start attracting clients like a magnet instead of fishing for clients with leads. And it completely changed the way I saw the business, completely changed everything. And so I started doing more marketing in 2021. I ended up doing really well with the marketing. And now I actually, the person that I paid for, he was like, dude, you've done it so well. Do you want to teach people in the program how you did sales, like how to do sales remotely? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. So I do it on a free basis, but because I really genuinely like helping agents that have pitched into the program that said, hey, I want to do this myself. So talk a little bit about that piece of marketing, the importance of marketing. How you pick a niche. When you're doing marketing, how do you track that perfect clientele so that you have these people that you have the genuine conversation that just is very organic, and those early adopters, those early innovators that are really wanting to buy your product, and then they become those raving fans that help to get you to the mass market. So talk a little bit about that and how important it is, because I think some agents, like I talk about this stuff all the time and they're like, yeah, that's just good, Greg saying that. But hearing it from somebody else, like it might be different.
Oh my God, I back you up 100%, Greg. And the thing is, in my copywriting career, I've also been the lead copywriter for Affiliate World, which is a really big conference where, people meet to talk about generating leads and, PPC and all these good things. And even there, in recent years, it has become all about brand building. I mean, think about it. Think about the marketing piece with, like I said, fishing versus magnetic attraction. So when you are out there buying lists of, let's say, email contacts to call, to email, to get in touch, people don't generally enjoy when someone cold emails or cold calls them. And I know this firsthand because I used to be a door-to-door salesperson. People generally don't love that. Sometimes it might be a good approach because they're like, oh, I didn't realize I needed your service, but I do. But this is definitely a harder way to do it from my experience. The easier way to do it is, like you said, just setting up a brand that would attract people to you. So, how do you do that? First of all, you have to get clear on your ICA, ideal client avatar. So, that comes with a series of questions that you ask yourself as the business owner, but also marketing research. So, for me, for example, instead of doing the traditional marketing research, which is like, hey, do you have 10 minutes to answer a few questions? I actually advertise my coffee dates. So a coffee date is something that I would put on my email list, on my Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And I would say, hey, I'm looking to have coffee over a 20-minute chat with someone. I'll send you Starbucks cash. And then when they show up on the call, I ask them 3 to 5 questions about any offer that I have coming up to find out whether they would actually be interested in it, whether they see value in it. and what they would actually pay for this offer. So this has helped me gain a lot of traction within my own launches. My very first launch for my 8-week program was actually a 5-figure launch, which I wasn't expecting. And that was because all the people that I met on my coffee dates were like, hey, you're cool, and I can feel like you're creating this, this project for me, so I want to be a part of it. So as an insurance agent, for example, if you were to reach out to a number of people that you suspect are your ideal client, and for an ideal client, look for someone that sees the value in the solution that you provide, someone that obviously is able to afford it, and someone that you would genuinely enjoy working with. Because when it comes to ideal clients, oftentimes business owners tend to think, oh, most people are my ideal client. But then when the communication is not going well and this person's like, oh, well, I actually wanted X and you gave me Y, that's when we get into refunds and chargebacks and all the things. So I would say pick a number of people that might be your ideal client avatar, 10 to 20, and meet with each one of them for about 20 minutes on Zoom. And you can make it your own. I say a coffee date, but you could, buy them pizza. You can do whatever you want, send them an Amazon gift card, whatever that is, to sit down and get to know what actually they want. Now, pay attention to this piece. Record all the conversations and use the words that they say to you in your copy, in your messaging. So, for example, if someone says, oh, I'm tired of shady insurance agents that seem to quote me an amazing price, but when I get into actually needing their help, I find out that I'm not entitled to even half of what they offered in the first place. So then when you sit down and write your copy or have your copywriter do it, they could say, are you tired of deceitful insurance agent who promised you this, but then you have an accident and now you're supposed to pay double? So take whatever they say to you and flip it back at them. This is a term that is known as reflection in copywriting, and people feel like you empathize and you understand. And honestly, this is how you subconsciously inception their mind by feeding them back what they told you in the first place. And when it comes to building your
That is
brand,
a gold nugget. That's really good. I love that.
great. Yeah, people always want to feel like you empathize with them first and foremost.
Yeah.
They want to know that you are relatable. So, as an insurance agent, you can share whatever's happened to other clients of yours. Like, let's say that you insure homes against flooding and natural disasters, and you tell the story of a 65-year-old woman named Betty in, I don't know, pick one of the states, let's say in Texas. There was a hurricane and she was stranded at her house, and she was seeing her life's memories getting destroyed, and she was so upset about it until she used your insurance, and someone, a real human, actually picked up the phone and made sure she was okay and sent out someone to help her, and then all the support followed from there. So people love storytelling. So you can share examples from existing clients, or you can share examples from your own life, or you can even, when you don't have enough examples from real life, leverage stories that you find online, for example. So I'm not saying go and make up a story that sounds amazing, but go on YouTube. You can find anything on YouTube and see what happens and how people recover, and then use those stories to tug on the heartstrings of your audience from a branding perspective. That's what I would say in terms of branding and messaging, because you've got so much more to leverage than you probably realize.
Yeah. And like, listen, as I'm listening to you, if you're an agent and you haven't started doing marketing, like you don't know where to start. Okay. And you don't know how to find your client avatar, your ideal client avatar, or your niche market. You don't know the exact message. Start with the leads that you're buying, and start with the genuine conversations of the people that just are like, when you call them or you sit with them, it's just a great, almost seamless transaction. And usually what the way I did it is I found that every single time I had one of those conversations, there was a link between those people. There was something that connected all of them. And there was some kind of connection. For me, it was veterans. So every time I sat with a veteran, because I'm prior military, every single time it was just a seamless conversation. And so that became my niche, was helping veterans. And when you find those people, you can actually start to ask them these questions during your appointment, and you can gather this information to start preparing. This is what my messaging is going to be on my ad copies, on my ad sets, right? This is how I'm going to attract those right clientele, the ideal client avatar, through this specific marketing. So you can actually ask this ahead of time. You don't have to, do out the market. I mean, that's a great idea also, but you don't have to like set up coffee dates or whatever. You probably already have leads and these people that you can sit with and have a little bit of a questionnaire after the sale. Say, hey, can I ask you a few questions and just kind of pick your brain and get to understand, your thought process a little bit better. Most people are going to be okay with that, especially after you've already made the sale.
Exactly.
So just taking a little bit extra time. It also helps to solidify your book of business. So like when you take the time to actually try to understand that client a little bit better after you've made the sale, and you keep in contact with them, and you understand them a more deeper, it's a deeper relationship, it's a deeper level. And this is stuff that you want to capture within your CRM. So whenever you go to contact them again, you can reference that information, and you can use that as a way to drip content to them, or to have a reason to recontact them, because top of mind is going to be, as long as you're continuously dripping on them, you're going to be top of mind, and you're going to be able to do future business. Or if you're top of mind, they're going to go become those raving fans, talk to their friends, their family, like, oh man, I got this guy, he's great, he does this, that, the other, you really should go check him out. And so just listening to you talk through this, I'm actually kind of thinking through all this, like how could insurance agents do this, even if they're like really nervous about, because it's nerve wracking jumping in. I didn't want to jump in marketing, I was just like, dude, just I can sell, give me leads. Like, you do the marketing for me. I want a high intentional funnel. I don't care how much it costs for ad spend. You do it. I'll go ahead and I just want to get in front of clients. And it never worked out that way, until I started doing it myself. Until I finally, it was like a struggle for a year. I was like, I'm not doing it. Finally, I was like, I guess I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. So I love everything that you're saying.
Thanks. And one other thing to remember is, don't be afraid. They're just people like you. They're probably just like your next door neighbor. So I think what you said is so important, Greg, because you said ask them these questions after you've solidified the sale. Because when people make a sale, I don't know what the science is about this, but there is a release of dopamine probably on both ends, because you're happy you just made a sale, and then that person's happy, like, hey, something exciting is happening. So that is a perfect segue. Like, hey, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? That is so perfect. And that is the best time to get all of your questions ready. And then next time, like you said, when you contact them, you can say, hey, how's your right knee? Do you still have that pain? Okay. Anyway, on to, the topic. And you just create a personal connection, because at the end of the day, people are more willing to buy from those who they trust and recommend them to family and friends, rather than somebody they just met.
Yeah. And I think I know within the insurance industry, this is something that's widely overlooked, is building a true book of business that is a referral network, right? That you create such an unbelievable customer experience that they do want to go talk to their friends, their family, their acquaintances, their coworkers about you, because it was such an amazing experience from start to finish and everything afterwards, right? And it's not one thing, it's a bunch of little things. It's a bunch of little things that add up in totality, that when it's all looked at from a macro perspective, they're like, man, this person's like a really good professional. Like, they're good at what they do. And we do this all the time. We do this with any product or service, with restaurants. Like, when's the last time that you went to an amazing restaurant that every single thing was just spot on, right? The waiter was like, the timing between coming to speak to you and getting your drinks, everything, the way they spoke to you, their presentation, their knowledge, the food, the the cook came out and like talked to you about the food, and you're just like, the manager came by at the end. How did you enjoy everything? And the ambiance of the restaurant, everything was just perfection. What do? You go back and you tell everybody, you got to go to this restaurant. It was awesome, right?
Yeah.
Because it makes you interesting, that you have something to share. And then when they go, it validates you for you recommending it. And then they come back and be like, oh my God, it was awesome. It was so great. You were so right. Did you try this? And then you guys have this conversation topic, right? So we do this with all products and services all the time. And I think with a lot of young, I don't mean young in age, I mean young in experience, young entrepreneurs, they don't realize how to capitalize it and allow that to empower the practices that they're doing within their sales process.
Definitely.
So they're just trying, they get the sale, they get that high, and then they're like, on to the next, and they just like dip out, jump out, and they're just like, okay, I got the sale, I'm done. You're not done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a key takeaway, I believe, that as insurance agents, that we can all do a lot better, because you don't need a lot of clients to build a 7-8 figure book of business, because they will build it for you if you do it.
That is honestly, that's such a powerful take, because, and I can tell you from marketing perspective, it's all about retention, because with the recent changes that we've had in iOS 14, campaigns getting harder to attribute, traffic, leads getting more expensive, people have stopped in their tracks and thought, why am I spending so much money trying to completely, chase new people every single month, instead of going back to the people that already have bought from me, they already trust me. I can actually go and make more money based on the community that I already have. And I read somewhere on the internet that you only need 100 true fans to make $1,000,000. So you
Yes.
can imagine, 2, 3, and so on. But even for me, I built my 6-figure copywriting business having 3 retainers. That was 3 clients only. So you don't need a ton. So you're exactly right, Greg.
Yeah, retention is so much greater than acquisition. Retention is so much greater than acquisition. You're absolutely right. So, talk a little bit about speaking. Let's jump into public speaking.
Sure.
How did you get into public speak? I mean, it sounds like the TEDx. Was the TEDx the first event?
So the very first time I actually had the opportunity to public speak was when I was 6, and I was mortified. So my mom, a very demanding teacher mom, thought that it was a good idea for me to recite the poem in front of, our whole hometown and city hall. So it was like an audience of 16,000 people. And I remember I've always been a very introverted person. I'm one of those unicorns that's sort of very outgoing introvert. So I showed up on that stage and I was like, oh my God, this is insanely scary. And I did it anyway. So ever since then, I've tried to, kind of deal with my own fear of being seen. I was bullied for many years in my younger years. And so now whenever I take an opportunity to do public speaking, even podcasting, whatever that is, I'm like, you know what? What is the worst that could happen? Because let's say I show up and it's a colossal mess. People are going to be like, oh, okay, I get where she's coming from. That stuff's not easy. Damn, I sympathize with her. And then if it's a good conversation, people are going to be like, okay, that sounds easy. Maybe I could do that. So I feel like public speaking is inevitably one of the skills that we need to have in our toolbox. Even if we're not on a big stage, let's say you're going and having a conversation with, say, 3 potential clients that are all together. You're speaking in front of a small group. The fact is that they will be looking at you, so you will have to be okay being seen, being heard, and overcoming your own barrier, whatever that is, to share your message and to talk about your business. So I definitely think that this is such a key tool to have for each one of us in business.
Mm. How often do you do public speaking events, or just get on stage?
So I practice daily on my Instagram, but other than that, I do weekly podcast interviews, and
Okay.
I also speak in masterminds, and I give a live 90-minute session every Tuesday inside my own community. So I do have to say it gets so much easier with time, because soon after you start, doing these online events, if it's online, you kind of stop thinking, oh my God, I'm staring at the camera. It's looking back at me. Is this stupid? Am I crazy? And
Mhm.
you're just like, oh, I do this every day, and it gets easier.
I agree 100%. So, in 2021, is when I was really like kind of doing my marketing full swing when I first started the year. And you know, I tell the story a lot of times to agents, but I don't know if you know 75 hard, but I started 75 hard. And I was like really big into like mental discipline and mind toughness and all this stuff. And somebody came to me and was like, and I started getting really good at my sales. Like I was starting to crush it because my marketing funnel was just kicking off, and my sales were starting to increase massively. And someone was like, you should get on video and start training people and like just share what you're doing in order to help. Because I started having agents reach out to me, and I was like, I didn't care if you're on my team, I don't even care if you're in the same company, I'll help you. Like let me go and tell you what I'm doing. And so I was like, you know what, you're right. And out of nowhere, I got a cheap little webcam, and I just started, and it was very awkward. The very first time I started recording and putting it on YouTube, I didn't know what I was doing. Didn't even have a mic. I was using the audio on my camera or on my computer. And I was just recording random content. And I was just like, okay, today I'm gonna talk about this. And I had so many like, and I was like, stop and think. I had to splice the content so many times. And I was trying to like, initially I was like, I got to say everything perfect. So I would like stop the camera and start over from the beginning. And I did this multiple times until I finally was like, you know what? I'm just going to, with the whatever, I'm just going to push this stuff out. And over time, I get more comfortable. And then I would get invited to go to Zoom calls, but there would be like, you know, 30, 50, 100, 200 agents that I would sit on, and I would just give a presentation. I'd tell my story and I would talk about what I was doing and how I was doing it. And I did this over and over again. But what I will say is that is very similar to public speaking, to like being on stage. So I got so used to communicating with a large audience, even if it was digital, that I feel the same way getting on stage, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm just standing instead of having my headset on and I'm looking at my camera, you know. And you just got to start. You got to go make a mess, like we said, to bring it back to the beginning. You got to just start recording, put it out there. No one's going to look at it anyways because you don't have an audience, and it doesn't matter. So just keep doing it, and as you get better, people will start to notice. And then you're like, hey, look, I just started, I sucked. Look at my first ones. They were terrible, you know.
Definitely. And this is something that I always say to the people in my community. I have actually encouraged them to post their bloopers. So whenever anyone's filming a reel, let's say for Instagram, of course, you're going to do a couple takes. I said to them the other day, hey, let's all go and share our bloopers. And they were like, oh my God, this is so liberating. This is so freeing. And again,
that's a good idea. I should do that because I do a whole video. I'll do like a 4-minute recording because I'll have spaces and I'll think I'll start to say something. I'll be like, nah, that doesn't sound right. And I'll go to say something again. I'm like, damn it, I messed up. And I'll splice it all, and I'll put it down to like 60 to 90 seconds, but it ends up being like a 4-minute video. I've never thought about doing the bloopers. That's pretty good. I'm going to try that. That's great. I love that. So, so when you do coaching, is it specifically mindset, business, or do you do coaching for speaking? Is it kind of like a wide range? Like, hey, I tailor my services depending upon what the person needs?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it definitely depends on what the person needs. For example, the activated community is focused on sales, negotiation, and confidence, because when you are learning how to say, market your services online, you inevitably are going to need to know how to negotiate, how to sell, and have some confidence. However, in my one-to-one coaching, which I do in either 3, 6, or 12-month increments, it could be anything you want it to be. So it's kind of like choose your own adventure. Mm-hmm. So I have an investment banker who I'm working with, and we're working on her confidence and her clarity. I have another girl, she's a former teacher, who's a one-to-one client, and she came to me. She was like, okay, I've got a list. First of all, I need a new job. Secondly, I need to figure out how to go back to Korea and be with my partner. Third, I need to become more confident. Fourth, and so on. So it really depends. But I would say whenever you are considering getting coaching, first of all, you have to figure out whether you really vibe with this person. So,
Mhm.
for example, speaking about, public appearances, when you sit down, and not many people talk about this, when you sit down with a coach, or say, Greg, your audience is sitting down listening to you, when they do that consistently over 3 months or 6 months or a year, they will inevitably become embodying and kind of acting the way you are. That doesn't mean that they're going to turn into you or change their personality. However, if you're very confident, if you're very good at sales, when people sit down and listen to you day in and out, or at least once a week live in a Zoom setting, soon enough, they'll be like, you know what? I'm confident as hell. I'm great at sales. I'm crushing this. So it's very important to figure out how you want to show yourself to the world and what kind of energy you want to portray. And then when it comes to coaching, of course, there isn't one size fits all. So, joining an online program usually has a set curriculum. A community also has a set number of pillars that we go over. But then one-to-one coaching is entirely up to you and the adventure you want to go on.
I love it. I love it. So you did, and you said you had to do a 6-month certification. Was that just a coaching certification?
Yeah, this is just the coaching certification, and the business is on top of everything else. But in the coaching certification, which was led by a master's in psychology and her team, we actually learned how to sit down and reflect what we're hearing. Because as a coach, you are not supposed to go and say to your client, I need you to do X, and then I need you to do Y, and then I need you to do Z. What you actually do is sit down, listen to them, and with a certain methodology of reflection, tell them how you see them so that they could see themselves, and that way they could become independent.
Mhm.
And some people may think, oh, I'm going to need to have a coach for the rest of my life. That is not the case. Actually, one of the missions of being a coach is to empower your client to be so secure in the decisions that they make that they don't need you anymore, and they can only stay in your coaching container if they choose to, but they can step firmly on their own 2 feet, make the best decisions they can, and all of the other things, make decisions based on themselves versus doing something to please others, set firm boundaries in their business, in their lifestyle, with their clients. So yeah, that is a big pillar of the certification process. And then obviously there is psychological training based on how to handle different cases, different situations, different exercises you can do for goal setting, and so on.
I love that. So I've been thinking about getting in coaching for a while because
You should.
I already coach agents on sales, marketing, and leadership. And one of my business partner and kind of one of my best friends that came and did business with me, he's like, dude, you just need to be doing coaching. Like you should be helping agents to sell and to market their own stuff because like you're already doing it, but you're doing it for free.
Exactly. Exactly.
So why not help entrepreneurs do it and do it in the same way, but do it for all entrepreneurs and or people that are willing to that want to take that jump. So I've been thinking about it for a while. So
Coach Greg, there we go.
Coach Greg, Coach G, I like it. I like it. So Dayana, I always with all my guests, I always have a final question, and so who, if you could pick 3 people that are living or dead, and anyone in history
Mhm.
that you could sit down and learn from, break bread with, have a meal, and really just have a great conversation, who would those 3 people be?
Ooh, 3 people. Okay. So, number one would definitely be Richard Branson. The reason being that a lot of people think, oh my God, I have to find my one thing that I'm going to be known for. And I'm like, well, Sir Richard is actually known for having an airline and also a record label and also a private island. And also he's, kite surfing with naked models. Like, you don't have to have one thing. So
Yeah.
I just want to sit down with him and say, first of all, how do you find the time? Secondly, how do you choose which idea to follow if you have so many?
Mm.
Then the second person I would pick is going to be Princess Di. So Princess Diana, my mom named me after her. She was a huge fan, and I've always admired her compassion and her empathy and the way that she so effortlessly relates to people.
Mhm.
So that would be number two, and then for number three, I'm gonna go with a sort of a cheesy choice here, but I'm gonna say Tony Robbins,
That's
just
not
because.
cheesy. That's a good one.
Thank you.
That's a
Some
great
people
one.
find it cheesy. However, he is such a force to be reckoned with. The
Yeah.
dude has coached literally anyone on this planet. And I've done a couple of his events, and it's like, how do you find that internal energy to actually get everyone, jumping, screaming, being like, hell yeah, I can do it. I'm doing it, pounding their chest kind of thing. And how are you so just like cool about it, so level headed about it? So those would be my 3 picks.
Those are actually very unique picks. Well, I think I've had Tony Robbins before. I'm pretty sure I've had Tony Robbins before, but I've never had Richard Branson. I've never had Princess Di. So
Cool.
those are great. Those are great. So for anyone that's watching this that says, man, this has been great. I love everything that Dayana is saying. I want to connect with her and I want to see her content that she's putting out, or I want to be able to reach out to her. What's the best place to reach you? And also you said you had a podcast, or you had a I sound like a podcast that you can reference or send people to as well.
Yeah, so the best place to actually find me is going to be Instagram. I
Okay.
jokingly say that I live there, but I do share content every day, and you can always drop me a direct message, voice note or text or whatever. So my name on Instagram, and here comes the Eastern European spelling. It's Dayana, Dayana _ Aleksandrova. So that's Aleksandrova _ You could just shoot me a message there. And that is also my website, DayanaAleksandrova.com.
I'm actually going to see if I can. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to pop this bad boy on
Thank you.
so that people can see it.
Yes, that is always the hardest part for me with everything, is just, how do you spell your name? Okay, do you have 20 minutes?
So if you look at, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually see on the screen now her Instagram handle that's on there. So the best place to connect with Dayana. Dayana, thank you so much for jumping on and having this conversation. This was a lot of value for those of you watching and listening. Do me a couple favors. First off, we grow this content in this show by word of mouth. So I'd be eternally grateful. And so would Dayana, if you would share this. Just give a quick like, review, and share. It takes you about a minute, but it means the world to both of us. That way we can spread this message. We can help more people. And if you also got provided value, if you listen to it, go back and listen to some of these. Like, she gave a lot of really, really great tips in terms of marketing that can help you, like practical things that you can start applying in your business today, especially if you're in insurance. So this has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, we'll see you. Take care.